Okay. Hello, people. Today, I was just browsing around on YouTube and I got to thinking, we're about midway into September. So that means that October is on its way, which also means that Halloween will be here soon. Which also got me to thinking, what is the origin of Halloween? What started it? So I looked up on history.com, the History Channel's website, thinking they would be a reliable source. And let me just read you what is said. Halloween is an annual holiday celebrated each year on October 31st, and Halloween 2018 occurs on Wednesday, October 31st. It originated, with the ancient Celtic festival of Samhain, when people would light bonfires and wear costumes to ward off ghosts. In the 8th century, Pope Gregory III designated November 1st as a time to honor All Saints. Soon, All Saints' Day incorporated some of the traditions of Samhain. The evening before was known as All Hallows' Eve, and later Halloween. Over time, Halloween evolved into a day of activities like trick-or-treating, carving jack-o'-lanterns, festive gatherings, donning costumes, and eating sweet treats. Okay? The ancient origins of Halloween. Halloween's origins date back to the ancient Celtic festivals of Samhain. The Celts, who lived 2,000 years ago in the area that is now Ireland, the United Kingdom, and northern France, celebrated their new year on November 1st. This day marked the end of summer and the harvest and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time of year that was often associated with human death. The Celts believed that the night before the new year, the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead became blurred. On the night of October 31st, they celebrated Samhain, when it was believed that the ghosts of the dead returned to the earth. In addition to causing trouble, I want to put my glasses on. In addition to causing trouble and damaging crops, Celts thought the presence of the otherworldly spirits made it easier for the Druids, or Celtic priests, to make predictions about the future. For a people entirely dependent on the volatile natural world, these prophecies were an important source of comfort and direction during the long, dark winter. To commemorate the event, Druids built huge sacred bonfires where the people gathered to burn crops and animals as sacrifices to the Celtic deities. During the celebration, the Celts wore costumes, typically consisting of animal heads and skins, and attempted to tell each other's fortunes. When the celebration was over, they relit their hearth fires, which they had extinguished earlier that evening, from the sacred bonfire to help protect them during the coming winter. By 43 AD, the Roman Empire had conquered the majority of Celtic territory. In the course of the 400 years that they ruled the Celtic lands, two festivals of Roman origin were combined with the traditional Celtic celebration of Samhain. The first was The first was Feralia, a day in late October where the Romans traditionally commemorated the passing of the dead. The second was a day to honor Pomona, the Roman goddess of fruit and trees. The symbol of Pomona is the apple, and incorporation of the celebration into Samhain probably explains the tradition of bobbing for apples that is practiced today on Halloween. All Saints' Day. On May 13th, 609 AD, Pope Boniface IV, very unfortunate name. It's spelt Pope, so Pope, then Boniface. Now there's an unfortunate name. Dedicated the Pantheon in Rome in honor of all Christian martyrs, and the Catholic Feast of All Martyrs' Day was established in the Western Church. Pope Gregory III later explained the festival to include all saints as well as the martyrs and moved the observance from May 13th to November 1st. By the 9th century, the influence of Christianity had spread to the Celtic lands, where it gradually blended with and supplanted the older Celtic rites. In 1000 AD, the church would make November 2nd All Souls' Day, a day to honor the dead. It's widely believed today that the church was attempting to replace the Celtic Festival of the Dead with a related church-sanctioned holiday. All Souls' Day was celebrated similarly to Samhain, with big bonfires, parades, and dressing up in costumes as saints, angels, and devils. All Saints' Day celebration was now called All Hallows, or All Hallowmas from Middle English, meaning All Saints' Day, and the night before it, the traditional night of Samhain in the Celtic religion. Religion. I can't read today. Began to be called All Hallows Eve and eventually Halloween. Halloween comes to America. Celebration of Halloween was extremely limited in colonial New England because of the rigid Protestant belief systems there. Halloween was much more common in Maryland and in the southern colonies. As the belief of the costumes of different European ethnic groups as well as the American Indians meshed a distinctly American version of Halloween began to emerge. The first celebrations included play parties, public events held to celebrate the harvest where neighbors would share stories of the dead, tell each other's fortunes, dance, and sing. Colonial Halloween festivities, also featured the telling of ghost stories and mischief making of all kinds. By the middle of the 19th century, annual autumn festivities were common, but Halloween was not yet celebrated anywhere in the country. In the second half of the 19th century, America was flooded with new immigrants. These immigrants, especially the millions of Irish fleeing the Irish potato famine, helped to popularize the celebration of Halloween nationally. Trick or treat. Borrowing from Irish and English traditions, Americans began to dress up in costumes and go house to house asking for food or money, a practice that eventually became today's trick or treat tradition. Young women believed that on Halloween they could divine the name or appearance of their future husband by doing tricks with yarn, apple parings, or mirrors. In the late 1800s, there was a move in America to mold Halloween into a holiday more about community and neighborly get-togethers than about ghosts, pranks, and witchcraft. At the turn of the century, Halloween parties for both children and adults became the most common way to celebrate the holiday. Parties focused on games, foods of the season, and festive costumes. Parents were encouraged by newspapers and community leaders to take anything frightening or grotesque out of Halloween celebrations. Because of these efforts, Halloween lost most of its superstitious and religious overtones by the beginning of the 20th century. Halloween parties. By the 1920s and 30s, Halloween had become a secular but community-centered holiday, with parades and town-wide Halloween parties as the featured entertainment. Despite the best efforts of many schools and communities, vandalism began to plague some celebrations in many communities during this time. By the 1950s, town leaders had successfully limited vandalism, and Halloween had evolved into a holiday directed mainly at the young. Due to the high number of young children during the 50s baby boom, parties moved from town civic centers into the classroom or home, where they could be more easily accommodated. Sound like they just didn't want to deal with a bunch of baby boomers to me right there. They didn't want to deal with a bunch of kids. So, yeah. Between 1920 and 1950, the centuries-old practice of trick-or-treating was also revived. Trick-or-treating was... Excuse me. Still got that fucking cold. Trick-or-treating was a relatively inexpensive way for an entire community to share the Halloween celebration. In theory, families could also prevent tricks being played on them by providing the neighborhood children with small treats. Thus, a new American tradition was born, and it continued to grow. Today, Americans spend an estimated of $6 billion. $6 billion. $6 billion annually on Halloween, making it the country's second largest commercial holiday after Christmas. Okay, I'm going to get into my viewpoint on Halloween and Christmas here in a minute. Soul cakes. The American Halloween tradition of trick-or-treating probably dates back to the early All Souls' Day parade in England. During the festivities, poor citizens would beg for food, and families would give them pastries called soul cakes in return for their promise to pray for the family's dead relatives. Well, if all I had to do was pray and I was poor to get a cake or something, any food, yeah, I'd do it. The distribution of soul cakes was encouraged by the church as a way to replace the ancient practice of leaving food and wine for roaming spirits. The practice, which was referred to as going a-souling, was eventually taken up by children who would visit the houses in the neighborhood and give an ale, food, and money. The tradition of dressing in costumes for Halloween has both European and Celtic roots. Hundreds of years ago, winter was an uncertain and frightening time. Food supplies often ran low, and for the many people afraid of the dark, the short days of winter were full of constant worry. On Halloween, when it was believed that ghosts came back to the earthly world, people thought that they would encounter ghosts if they left their homes. To avoid being recognized by these ghosts, people would wear masks when they left their homes after dark so the ghosts would mistake them for fellow spirits. On Halloween, to keep ghosts away from their house, people would place bowls of food outside their homes to appease the ghosts and prevent them from attempting to enter. Black cats. Halloween, okay, I love black cats, okay? I've had 2 black cats, and they are like the most sweetest, most gentlest things in the world. Their names were, let me spell it right, Koga and Reaper. Those are our 2 black cats, and let me tell you, Koga did die, but he died of natural causes. He had broken his leg and could no longer get food, so he could get food. I'm going to rephrase that. He could get food, but he basically just had to sit in one spot, and we just fed it to him, and he just basically just died. Now, all of our cats are outdoor cats, okay? I'm just going to rephrase that. I'm just going to say that again. All of our cats are outdoor cats. We live on a farm. Okay, so they're basically farm cats. So basically, they are farm cats, okay? And Reaper is just another lovable black cat, okay? I don't see why people hate black cats. Black cats are just as lovable as any other cat, and I fear for our black cats every Halloween. I do. But anyway, black cats. Halloween has always been a holiday filled with mystery, magic, and superstition. It began as a Celtic end-of-summer festival during which people felt especially close to deceased relatives and friends. For these friendly spirits, they set places at the dinner table, left treats on the doorstep and along the side of the road, and lit candles to help loved ones find their way back to the spirit world. Today's Halloween ghosts are often okay, I'm having a hard time reading today. Depicted. God damn, I need to learn how to read. Again. Depicted as more fearsome and malevolent, and our customs and superstitions are scarier too. We avoid crossing paths with black cats, afraid that they might bring us bad luck. Black cats do not bring bad luck. Hello, AKA Crane. How you doing, Crane? Just talking about Halloween here. Okay? Black cats do not bring bad luck, sorry to say. To all you guys that believe that they do, they don't. This idea has its roots in the Middle Ages, when many people believed that witches avoided detection by turning themselves into black cats. We try not to walk under ladders for the same reason. This superstition may have come from the ancient Egyptians, who believed that triangles were sacred. It also may have something to do with the fact that walking under a leaning ladder tends to be fairly unsafe. And around Halloween especially, we try to avoid breaking mirrors, stepping on cracks in the road, and spilling salt. Crane, I almost fell into a wood chipper. Oh my. Well, I'm glad that you didn't. We had a church member die that way. Halloween matchmaking. But what about the Halloween traditions and beliefs that today's trick-or-treaters have forgotten all about? Many of these obsolete rituals focused on the future instead of the past, and the living instead of the dead. In particular, many had to do with helping young women identify their future husbands and reassuring them that they would someday, with luck by next Halloween, be married. Why did you retract your message, Crane? Well, I gotta go to the hospital on Halloween. Sucks. I can't stay home. Why do you gotta go to the hospital on Halloween, Crane? In 18th century Ireland, a matchmaking cook might bury a ring in her mashed potatoes on Halloween night, hoping to bring true love to the diner who found it. In Scotland, fortune tellers recommended that an eligible young woman name a hazelnut for each of her suitors, then tossed the nuts into the fireplace. The nut that burned to ashes rather than popping or exploded, the story went, represented the girl's future husband. In some versions of this legend, the opposite was true. The nut that burned away symbolized a love that would not last. Why? Crane, why? Are you going there for a visit, or are you actually being institutionalized? Another tale had it that if a young woman ate a sugary concoction made out of walnuts, hazelnuts, and nutmeg before bed on Halloween night, she would dream about her future husband. Just to get studied on for a heads up. Oh, okay. Hope all goes well. Young women tossed apple peels over their shoulders, hoping that the peels would fall on the floor in the shape of their future husband's initials. Tried to learn about their futures by peering at egg yolks floating in a bowl of water. Yeah, right. And stood in front of mirrors in darkened rooms, holding candles and looking over their shoulders for their husbands' faces. Other rituals were more competitive. At some Halloween parties, the first guest to find a burr on a chestnut hunt would be the first to marry. At others, the first successful apple bobber would be the first down the aisle. Of course, whether you're asking for romantic advice or trying to avoid 7 years of bad luck, each of these Halloween superstitions relies on the goodwill of the same spirits whose presence to early Celtics felt so keenly. Yeah. So that's basically the origins of Halloween. I've had people tell me that Halloween is a Christian holiday. I've had people tell me that it's not, that it's evil and satanic. You have multiple oh, I'm sorry. Well, I hope that everything helps. Hope that you can find stuff to help you with that. I don't know what. I've never met anyone with that. And I know just dissociative identity disorder, that's the DID is the more, what should we say? The more right way to say it. I grew up with it being multiple personality disorder, so sorry if that comes out of my mouth from time to time. Of course, every time I see the DID, I think of Damsel in Distress from Hercules. Sorry, but that's what DID stands for in my head. DID, Damsel in Distress. Watch Hercules the cartoon. Phil says it. So yeah, so from what I read here, it doesn't sound like, I mean, the Celts, it had nothing to do with Christianity, because they're not Christians. So yeah, that's my, I mean, I don't think I have anything to go on this. My viewpoints on Halloween is just that it's fun. You need to stop retracting your messages. There's nothing wrong with them unless Facebook's doing it. I mean, Facebook, unless Unless YouTube's doing it. I think it's allergies mixed with a cold. And I wish I could have an ice cream. Thank you. Oh, God, I have no money right now. Me, myself, I have no money. My husband has all the money. He doesn't let me have any of it. That's something that I do not want to get into. It's a can of worms that does not need to be opened. So, yeah, so I mean, this is the origins of Halloween, what I was talking about. Dates back about 2,000 years ago when the Celts, roamed the world. They thought that the new year was November 1st. I love Disney. Who doesn't? Grew up in the 80s and 90s, of course. Grew up during the Disney Renaissance, the great time to be alive during the Disney Renaissance, the late 80s to basically the mid to late 90s. That's when all the great Disney movies were made. Nowadays, they just get lucky here and there. Which is why I believe that they are remaking all of their old movies. They're making everything live action now. Cinderella was made live action. Beauty and the Beast was made live action. I think next year they're going to do The Lion King live action. Almost all of them. Yeah. So this is, yeah. So that was the history of Halloween. And as we get closer to the other two major holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, I will do origins of them too. We'll be doing a lot of Christmas origins because Santa. I don't believe in him. Well, okay. When I was younger, I believed in him. But as I got older, I learned to recognize handwriting, and that's when I learned that he wasn't real. So then that's when I told myself that when I had kids, I wasn't going to tell them about Santa. It's just a lie. It's a lie that does not need to be told. And then when they find out, you have to go through I told you this because. Okay, and I never told my kids about the Tooth Fairy. You know what? Ha ha ha. The origin of the Tooth Fairy. Let's just figure out why people tell this.
Origins. According to Wikipedia, origins. In Northern Europe, there was a tradition of tanfei or tooth fee, which was paid when a child lost their first tooth. This tradition is recorded in writings as early as the Eddas, which are the earliest written record of Norse and Northern European traditions.
Don't tell the kids the real history of the Tooth Fairy. Let's see, how long is this article? Quite long. Well, never going to get through it unless we do it, right? Okay. Don't tell the kids the real history of the Tooth Fairy. There are 3 central figures in the pantheon of North American children's mythology: Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy. Oh, that's another thing that I want to talk about is the Easter Bunny. But while the origins of the first 2 are fairly well documented, a combination of Christian and pagan traditions with some recent tweaks from the marketing departments at Coca-Cola and Cadbury, respectively, far less is known about the third. As recently as 1970, when a radio DJ in Chicago made an on-air reference to the Tooth Fairy, staff at the American Dental Association was inundated with calls for more information about her. We went out of our minds, the director of library services said at the time. We should have at our fingertips answers to all dentally related questions. But in this area, we have nothing. At the same time, a professor at nearby Northwestern University Dental School named Rosemary Wells found herself similarly baffled. After all, the ritual of children placing their shed baby teeth under their pillows in hopes of finding them replaced with cash in the morning was already being practiced by millions of young Americans. These kids left notes for the tooth fairy and believed they shared personal relationships with her that spanned several years and up to 20 baby teeth. How was it possible, Wells wondered, that nobody knew where she came from? My brother told me Santa committed what? What is that? I remember one time when I was a kid, I lost a tooth and I couldn't find it anywhere in the house. I was at my dad's house and I couldn't find it for the life of me. So I left him a note. Oh. But no, Santa did not commit suicide. Santa's not real. Santa was never real. Santa is a load of bullshit that parents tell their kids. Why? I have no clue. I don't know why parents tell the lies of the Easter Bunny, Santa Claus, and the Tooth Fairy. The three here in North America. Those are the three that are big. And I do not know why parents tell these lies. I don't trust my parents as much these days as I should because of those lies. Because it makes me think, okay, well, what else are they lying about? But let's go on. So Wells decided to take on the project herself. First came a series of magazine articles in which she laid out in front. Stop it, you damn fly. First came a series of magazine articles in which she laid out the first substantive review of the tooth fairy myth. Okay? Myth, kids. Myth. Not real. Myths, not real. Keyword, myth. Then there was her survey, again the first of its kind, conducted among some 2,000 parents in the United States. A decade later, Wells remained so engrossed in her subject that she opened an entire museum dedicated to it, ran out of her home in Deerfield, Illinois. By then, she had become the world's expert in the tooth fairy, giving countless interviews and talks, and even appearing on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Ooh! Oprah can go suck my ass. Wells' name became so synonymous with the dental pride that she had to clarify things to the Chicago Tribune. I'm not the tooth fairy, she said. I'm the tooth fairy consultant. Oh my effing God. It said so on her business card too. A spokesperson of the Chicago Dental Society added, "We have no position on the tooth fairy. I refer all inquiries to Miss Wells." Sounds like that she kind of made up the tooth fairy. What Wells discovered in her initial research was striking. Despite the seemingly timelessness of the character, the tooth fairy is in fact an extremely recent revival of the mythological scene. Her first print appeared in an 8-page playlet for children by Esther Watkins Arnold from 1927, and the oldest oral references date her to approximately the turn of the 20th century. By the time Wells started poking around, this supposedly immortal figure was barely even a senior citizen. Of course, rituals surrounding tooth loss date back much further than that. Every recorded human culture has some kind of tradition surrounding the disposal of children's lost baby teeth. And in the 1960s, a researcher named B.R. Townsend distilled these rumors down to 9 basic forms, as summarized by Wells in her 1991 essay, The Making of an Icon. Okay. And the 9 are: the tooth was thrown into the sun, thrown into the fire, thrown between the legs, thrown onto or over the roof of the house, often with an invocation to some animal or individual, placed in a mouse hole near the stove or hearth, or offered to some other animal, buried, hidden where animals could not get to it, placed in a tree or on a wall, and 9, swallowed by the mother, child, or animal. Yikes. The items weren't mutually inclusive either. Perhaps the most widely practiced ritual on that has been documented everywhere from Russia to New Zealand to Mexico. Just checking the time. Okay. 36. Okay. Involves offering the lost tooth to a sacrifice, as a sacrifice to a mouse or a rat, in the hopes that the child's adult teeth will grow in as strong and sturdy as the rodent's. A wish for transference that anthropologists call synthetic magic. This offering is often accompanied by a specific prayer or song, and in a pinch, a strong-toothed animal will do. Leo Kanner's Folklore of the Teeth from 1928 records similar ceremonies involving cats, dogs, squirrels, or beavers. You need to stop retracting your messages. Sometimes I don't see them right away. But it's the mouse that remains the prominent animal dental mascot even to this day. In many countries around the world, children continue to leave teeth out in hopes that a mouse will come take them away in exchange for money or some other gift. For French children, this is La Petite Souris. I guess I'm pronouncing that right. Oh, then it must be YouTube. It's La Petite P-E-Souris. Souris. That word. Who appears in French folktales as early as the 17th century in several Spanish-speaking nations. It's something. This word, RATONCPEREZ. Huh. And just like his American counterpart, Perez has a museum of his own in Madrid. Too far. The tooth fairy then is thought to be a uniquely American cross-pollination of two pre-existing figures: the mouse that sneaks into children's bedrooms and performs a cash for teeth swap, and the general good fairy, a traditional European figure that slowly made its way over the Atlantic. It's no coincidence that at the same time the tooth fairy was starting to gain traction in the United States, Disney was also releasing animated films like Pinocchio and Cinderella. each of which features a benevolent maternal fairy with the power to make wishes come true. Pop culture helped solidify the Tooth Fairy into the mainstream, and she's been a fixture there ever since. In dozens of children's books, in specialized pillows, complete with tooth hiding pockets. And yes, I've seen those pillows. And in the recent live action film series, wherein an incredulous Dwayne The Rock Johnson and Larry the Cable Guy don wigs and tutus as pittance for their petty crimes. But why did she show up in the first place? Wells and others have argued that the Tooth Fairy services has a much needed source of comfort during an experience that can otherwise be scary, even traumatic. Why would losing a tooth be traumatic? Oh my fucking God. Why scary? Okay, I can understand scary, blood, but traumatic? If a kid gets traumatized from losing a tooth, then they have something else going on in life. While there are many rites of passage in a person's life, the loss of a baby tooth is arguably the first, and thus the most frightening. 3 stages in a rite of passage, as described in Arnold van Gennep's book of the same name, are nicely mirrored in both the loss of a tooth and the tooth fairy ritual in general. Separation, tooth falls out, child leaves tooth under pillow. Transition, gath and teep, child goes to sleep. And incorporation, new tooth grows in, child wakes up to a gift of money. In Flights of Fancy, Leaps of Faith, Cindy Dill Clark has further argued that the use of monetary rewards and leaving money for each tooth, not just the first one, is another directly American invention, helps children transition into the world of adulthood where cash is a symbol of increased agency and responsibility. And they might also start thinking that they can get money for whatever. I mean, come on. They put something underneath, they put a tooth or whatever underneath their pillow, and they might start thinking, I can get something for nothing. The Tooth Fairy doesn't appear to be overstaying her welcome either. According to Wells' survey, 97% of parents held positive or neutral feelings toward her, and that's without any of the religious or calendar-based reinforcements that her peers, Santa and the Easter Bunny, benefit from. And she's only getting more and more generous with age. I'll talk about that. There's this MTV star. She was on 16 and Pregnant and Teen Mom OG. Her name is Farrah Abraham. She makes, millions of dollars from being on those 2 shows. And she is also a porn star. And she also has her own several small businesses too. Her daughter, Sophia, lost a tooth, and I think she gave her $6,000 for it. Stupid, isn't it? While the amount of money left per tooth tends to hew to the rate of inflation, researchers at Visa recently found that the Tooth Fairy is now leaving an average of $3.70 USD per tooth. Who doesn't like candy? I like candy year-round. Candy's like the bomb. Hold on. We're speaking of candy. This right here is my favorite candy. No, I'm from America. I'm guessing you're not, Crane. But this is like the best chocolate ever. That's up 23%. Okay, so it's average $3.70 US dollars per tooth. Okay. I remember getting what, 50 cents? Maybe 25 cents? That's up 23% from last year, and an overall increase of 42% from 2011. With that kind of financial incentive, it's hard to imagine kids will rebel against their beloved dental sprite anytime soon. Pocky? Pocky? What does that mean? The chocolate that I'm eating is LINDTL LINDT, yeah, LIN. That's the chocolate I'm eating, and it's a milk chocolate truffle bar. One of the best bars I've ever eaten. That's what they look like. And I have to hide this. I have to hide candy like this from the kids because it's expensive, and I know they would eat it in like a minute. So, I guess that's the real history of the Tooth Fairy. The website I got that from is salon.com. SALON.com. But I don't believe that parents should be telling their kids about Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, or the Tooth Fairy. Santa Claus, because he's not real, you're making having kids. It's basically a way of getting your kids to behave. Basically bribery. Easter Bunny, me being Christian. Yeah, no wonder we have problems with childhood obesity. Yes. Do you like our Kool-Aid? Oh my gosh, that's like a staple at our house. You get it at the stores for like 25 cents. Cheapest drink on earth. Easter Bunny, now I'm Christian, and my husband and I are Christian, so we're raising our kids that way. Excuse me. So we believe that, we shouldn't tell them about Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, or the Tooth Fairy. Tooth Fairy, because that's just a dumb lie. I mean, if you really want money for losing a tooth, okay, I understand that. That's fine. You can give your kids money for losing teeth. But don't tell them to put underneath a pillow, okay? Just tell them, hey, if you lose your tooth, come to me, and I'll give you $2 or whatever. Because when they're young, $2 is a lot of money to them. Or even hell, just say, hey, here's 50 cents. The next time we're at the grocery store, you can buy a bouncy ball. Easter Bunny, yeah, that is definitely pagan origins. It's not Christian. there is something else Christian about Easter, about, you know, Jesus coming back from the dead. But I am not really sure how the Easter Bunny fits into that. Seeing as Easter is a religious holiday, when you were a kid, losing a tooth only earned you a paper towel. Yeah. Mom, my tooth is loose and it's bleeding. Yeah. Here's a Kleenex. Pull it out. Like I said, I think I got 25 cents, maybe 50 for losing a tooth. It wasn't really a big thing at my house. Now, Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny were. And seeing as Easter has passed, I'll just tell about this. Yeah, so it's, I mean, I remember waking up one morning, I think I was like 10 years old, and my mom left little, you know, those little plastic Easter eggs from our bedroom to the living room, to the formal dining room. And in there was our Easter dresses they were supposed to wear that day. And so I'm trying to remember, so give me a sec. And our Easter baskets, and I cannot remember what was in it. What was in the Easter bags? Obviously candy and cheap-ass toys. But yeah, that's what was left for us. But yeah, I mean, it was just, Easter never felt like Easter. You know, never felt like a holiday in my house. Christmas always did, because we always, you know, everybody, Christmas, you know, you put up the tree, you know, you put up lights, you buy presents and everything. And let me tell you, oh God, Black Friday shopping. I think I'm going to have to do a live stream on that on Black Friday. You go to make tea with lemon. Yum. Wish I had some sugar. I just messaged my husband here a few hours ago to get some, but he hasn't responded, so don't know if he saw it or not. So yeah. So when Black Friday rolls around, I think I'll do a video if I don't have a job by then. I'm trying to get a job right now. Surprised he didn't comment today. I'll try calling him tomorrow, because I called him like Thursday or Friday last week, so I'll call them tomorrow. And yeah, and as the holidays get closer, I will do more in-depth discussions on Halloween, and, you know, like, maybe I'll just do a full stream on, you know, on just trick-or-treating or just dressing up. So, yeah, I have got to go. My kids will be home here soon, and we need to clean up the house before my youngest daughter leaves on Friday to go to a church convention. So yeah, hey, thank you all for stopping by, and remember, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell so you can get notified when I go live, so you can be part of my streams, my talks, why I go live, so I can answer questions on, you know, answer questions as they come up, instead of you just leaving them down in the comments and then waiting forever and a day for me to answer them. So yeah, thank you everybody for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye.